In some ways, I'm making this video and it's actually very disingenuous for me to do so because I don't have the lens with me. I've never tried the lens, but yet I'm going to share my opinions on the Sony 85mm GM Mark II. And admittedly, I did just want to jump on the bandwagon because that is a bit of a hot topic at the moment. But I do also feel I have some genuine insight into the 85mm world. And what I mean by that more specifically is I've actually used the 85mm GM Mark I. I owned it for many years. My problem that I had with it was that it was really slow. It was actually a bit sluggish to focus, it was noisy to focus, and at f1.4 it wasn't the sharpest lens. I personally, I don't actually do that many portraits with it if I'm honest. So for me, it was more like a low light telephoto event lens for me, so the speed was not really acceptable. That's why I decided to move to the Sigma f1.4 art lens, which I found has been working absolutely flawlessly. It's been focusing really fast, the images are sharp at f1.4, and I can't really complain. The only thing I would say about the Sigma lens is I wish it was a little bit lighter, and that's where at times I've actually moved towards the 85mm f1.8G lens. If I feel my bag's getting a little bit tight with all the stuff that I'm packing and maybe the 85 is not a priority for me, I can get by with f1.8. So when the GM Mark II was being rumored, I was actually kind of hoping it would be an f1.2. Now I know this sounds a bit counterintuitive because I know as an f1.2 lens it will be huge, but the point that I'm making is it will be an f1.2. It would actually be so much more enticing at that level. It would be one of those lenses where I would bring out on special occasions or when I know I've got a specific shot that I want to achieve. So I would have considered it more to buy it if it was actually an f1.2, but the lens got announced as an f1.4. And I've seen the other reviews on other channels where they actually show that the image quality is better than the Mark I. It is actually much sharper than the Mark I by far. But it still suffers from focus breathing, but you get the focus breathing compensation with the Sony bodies nowadays. I believe it's a little bit lighter, but all in all, I don't think these improvements are enough to jump up from the Sigma, especially not for me since I already own the Sigma. But I also question the fact that if I didn't have the Sigma and I had no 85mm and I was spending my own hard-earned cash, do I feel spending up to close to £2,000 for the Sony GM Mark II is worth it over the Sigma? And right now, I don't think it is. Definitely not for me, at least, with the amount of work that I do with that focal length. But I do understand why they didn't go for an f1.2 because that's the size of the lens. And I think the demands for f1.2 isn't as high as an f1.4 purely because it does enter into that very premium lens. And not many people would want it. They wouldn't actually make much money back selling through volume because many more people would buy the f1.4. I'm sure of it. And even at me, judging by the 50mm lenses, as I got the 50mm 1.2, there are times where I actually think to myself, I'd like the 50mm 1.4 instead because it's a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. But the fact of the matter is I already do own the f1.2, so there's no point me switching over to the f1.4. But if I was to go back in time and actually have no 50mm and then the 50mm f1.4 and the f1.2 got presented to me, it would depend on how impulsive I'm feeling at the moment. Because I know emotionally I'd want the f1.2, but I know logically that the f1.4 would serve me fine. And I think that's very true for this 85mm range as well. But because I actually own the Sigma f1.4 85mm, with the GM Mark II, it would have had to be an f1.2 for me to even consider switching over. But you never know, it's a GM Mark II, but maybe it's a Mark II because it's following on from an f1.4. But later on down the line, they might actually just offer the 85mm f1.2 as a separate option. We'll see. But nonetheless, it was just going to be a quick video just to sort of run through this. Let me know in the comments below what you feel about this 85mm GM Mark II, and will you be picking one up?